There is a place within you where time folds, where the past is not gone, it is simply hidden. Not erased, not lost, just waiting. A memory you do not remember lives there, whispering through your cells, echoing through your heartbeat, casting shadows over your present life in ways you cannot yet see. But what if that forgotten moment is the root of your suffering and the key to your healing? The woman didn't know she carried the memory. It wasn't part of her conscious timeline. It didn't appear in dreams, nor did it show up in therapy. And yet, it had always been there, lodged deep in the body, etched into the nervous system like an ancient code. The pain she felt was modern, the anxiety recent, but its cause, timeless. Weiss often spoke of such mysteries. Of people who walked into his office burdened by illnesses, phobias, sadness they could not explain. And how, through the sacred opening of regression, the invisible became seen, not as fantasy, not as metaphor, but as lived experience held in the soul's deeper fabric. A truth that had been buried not to be forgotten, but to be rediscovered when the soul was ready. Imagine this. A woman lies back in quiet stillness, the world around her fading. Her breathing slows. Her body softens. And then, through the gate of guided silence, she steps into a memory. A life she never knew she lived. A death she never remembered dying. And there, in the heart of that long-forgotten scene, something shatters and heals. Healing is not always linear. It does not ask permission from logic. It does not announce its arrival with fireworks. Sometimes it comes in a soft gasp, a single tear, a trembling in the spine. The body knows before the mind catches up. And when that hidden memory rises to the surface, uncoiling like smoke from a sealed bottle, everything begins to shift. What if your current suffering is not your own? What if it belongs to a self you once were, whose pain was never resolved? Would you dare to look? Would you dare to feel what was once unfelt? In Weiss's view, healing is the return to wholeness through remembrance. Not remembering with the mind, but with the soul, with the body, with the heart that dares to listen beyond language. In that sacred moment, the woman saw herself, not as she is now, but as she was then. Another life, another name, another world. But the emotion, the wound, was identical. And in seeing it, she understood. Her fear had roots. Her grief had a story. And that story, once witnessed, no longer had to control her. We carry more than we know. We are haunted by our own soul's past. And yet inside that haunting lies a gift, a medicine, a path back to coherence. You do not need to remember with the mind, you only need to be willing to feel, to surrender, to listen when silence begins to speak. In this journey, I will take you through the invisible threads that connect memory and healing, time and soul, past life and present pain. Let each word be a doorway. Let each pause be an invitation inward. You are not just watching a story. You are stepping into your own. Not all wounds cry out. Some remain in silence for lifetimes, waiting for a precise alignment, a sacred moment in time, when the soul whispers, now. You may think that healing happens because you seek it, but often it is the other way around. Healing seeks you. It waits patiently until your inner landscape becomes fertile enough for the buried seed to bloom. The woman did not arrive in Dr. Weiss's office by coincidence. Nothing real is random. There are no accidents on the soul's path, only invitations we accept or ignore. Her symptoms had intensified, panic attacks, unexplained sorrow, relationships that collapsed without warning. And though she tried everything, medications, analysis, affirmations, the ache beneath her life refused to dissolve. Because the ache was ancient, it did not respond to surface treatment, because its origin lived below the surface of this incarnation. In her regression session, as her consciousness drifted beyond the borders of the known, she was not guided to a memory. She was claimed by one. A scene emerged. Cobbled streets, the scent of smoke, the sound of loss. She did not imagine it, she returned to it. There is a language older than words, and the soul speaks it fluently. As images rose and emotions surfaced, her body trembled. Her breathing quickened. And in a quiet, trembling voice, she began to describe the moment her child had been taken from her, in a life far removed from this one. The grief she never processed then had traveled with her, tucked into the folds of her energetic body, showing up now as anxiety without origin. Weiss teaches that the soul retains emotional memory. The details may fade, but the feelings endure. When those feelings are blocked, they solidify into patterns, emotional, physical, spiritual. We repeat stories we don't understand, play roles we never auditioned for, and suffer pain that seems to have no cause, until we remember. But remembering is not passive. It requires surrender. It asks you to trust what arises, even if it makes no sense to the mind. Healing happens when we stop resisting the unknown and begin listening to the body's language, the heart's tremors, the soul's quiet murmurs. And in that session, this woman listened, not with skepticism, but with reverence. She allowed the wave of feeling to move through her without fighting it, and something happened. As she relived the loss, tears fell, not just from her eyes, but from her being. A weeping of the spirit, a melting of the wall she had unknowingly built around her present self, and in that release, the symptom that had haunted her, an unbearable fear of separation, began to dissolve. Not because it had been analyzed, but because it had been felt, fully, without judgment, without interruption. Sometimes the soul hides what it cannot yet face. And that is not weakness, it is wisdom. Your psyche protects you until you are ready to carry more truth, and when that readiness comes, it is unmistakable. The memory arrives not as an idea, but as a force, a lived frequency, a full body knowing that what is being seen was always there, waiting to be witnessed. We are not only healing this life, we are clearing echoes, completing cycles, untangling threads spun across generations and incarnations. The soul is not linear. It is not confined by time. It only asks for presence and courage and the willingness to feel what has long been unfelt. Emotion that is not expressed does not disappear. It crystallizes. It sinks into the body's hidden architecture, flowing into the nervous system, influencing thought, behavior, even fate. What we call emotional baggage is not metaphor. It is biology, it is energy, it is memory. And when that emotion is ancient, unspoken, carried across lifetimes, it can shape a person's entire existence without ever speaking its name. For the woman, the memory alone was not the healing. The true transformation came in the space that opened within her as she felt it. The scream she never released in that past life echoed through her body as she spoke. Her chest tightened, her hands clenched. The sorrow poured through like water breaking a dam. She was not acting, she was reliving. In Weiss's experience, past life recall is not about belief, it's about experience. He has watched countless individuals step into emotional terrain they never could have invented. They recall names, dates, details they never studied. But most importantly, they access emotions too raw, too real, to be fabricated. These are the moments when healing occurs, when energy trapped in emotional time loops is given freedom again. Think of the body as an instrument. If one string is tied too tightly, it cannot vibrate. If one chord is broken, the whole sound is affected. Emotional trauma, especially unresolved from past incarnations, tightens those strings. It creates dissonance. And this dissonance echoes through our present lives as irrational fears, chronic illness, relationship patterns that repeat like old songs on a loop. But when the memory is retrieved, when the soul is allowed to speak through sensation and tears, the frequency changes. That which was frozen begins to move. That which was rigid softens. In this woman's session, her body was the first to respond. The tension she always carried in her jaw vanished. The nausea that plagued her before social encounters calmed. Her voice grew steadier. Her gaze clearer. Something had been released, but more importantly, something had returned. A part of her that had been exiled through pain now rejoined the whole. And that is the essence of healing, not fixing, not curing, but reuniting, becoming whole again. Dr. Weiss describes this process as soul retrieval. When we touch a past life memory with presence and acceptance, we reclaim the parts of ourselves lost to fear, guilt, or trauma. The memory no longer haunts us. It informs us. It teaches us. And eventually, it frees us. But we must listen. We must create space. We must understand that emotions are not obstacles on the path to enlightenment. They are the path. To feel is to awaken. To weep is to cleanse. To remember is to return. The woman began to notice subtle changes. Her dreams became more vivid. She felt less reactive, more compassionate. She was no longer ruled by the fear of abandonment because she now recognized its root. It no longer controlled her because it had been seen. It had been honored. We carry emotional signatures across lifetimes. These are not punishments, they are opportunities. Each pain is a teacher, each symptom a messenger. The moment we stop fighting what arises and instead ask, "What do you want me to remember?" that is when healing begins. You are not broken, you are layered. And within those layers are fragments of you waiting not to be corrected but to be welcomed home, just as she welcomed hers. Healing does not always feel like light. Sometimes it feels like darkness releasing, like a storm clearing out the silence, like a part of you dying so that something greater can live. This is not poetic. This is the nature of transformation. And the moment the woman surrendered fully to the memory, her perception of reality began to shift. It is not the past life memory itself that changes us. It is the integration of it, the way it reshapes the story we tell about ourselves, the way it reveals that what we thought was weakness is, in fact, wisdom. When she opened to the full truth of her emotional past, time softened. Linear identity dissolved. She was no longer just a woman with anxiety. She was a soul on a continuum, reclaiming pieces of herself across dimensions. Weiss teaches that consciousness is not bound to one lifetime. The self we think we are, the personality, the ego, the story, is only a thin veil stretched over something vast. Beyond that veil is awareness without time, without name, without boundary. And through regression, we do not become someone else. We return to ourselves in a fuller, deeper way. For the woman, the memory was no longer frightening. It became a portal, a bridge connecting the fractured parts of her being. She began to understand her present relationships in a new light. The partner who had triggered her deepest fear of rejection, he now appeared not as a source of pain, but as a mirror, a soul companion, reenacting a lesson that had remained incomplete across lifetimes. This is the mystery of karmic entanglement. It is not punishment, but remembrance. The soul repeats what is unresolved, not out of cruelty, but out of love. It offers chance after chance to choose differently, to respond with awareness, to bring light to where there was once blindness. And so she did. With each day, her interactions shifted. Less reactivity, more presence. She no longer needed to control every outcome. Her nervous system softened into trust. Her mind, once racing, found stillness. Not because the world changed, but because she did. This is the quiet revolution that occurs when we expand consciousness. We stop seeking to escape life and begin to engage it with reverence. We realize that every trigger is a teacher, every symptom is sacred communication, and every emotion, no matter how painful, is a thread that can lead us back to the center. Dr. Weiss often said that the healing we find in regression is not always in the story. It is in the shift of awareness. To see beyond this single chapter of existence is to free yourself from identification with suffering. You are not what happened to you. You are what awakens through what happened. The woman began to live differently, not dramatically, not suddenly, but soulfully. She felt a subtle joy returning, not the loud kind, but the grounded serenity that comes when you no longer run from yourself. She understood now that the past had shaped her. Yes, but it no longer defined her. In that space, the soul expands. It breathes again, and in that breath a deeper intelligence awakens, one that knows the timing of everything, one that holds no judgment, one that sees pain as part of the path, not its enemy. To remember who you truly are is to remember that you are more than this moment. more than this body, more than this name. And from that knowing, healing flows not just through you, but as you. There comes a moment when the search ends, not because we've found all the answers, but because we've remembered something deeper than answers: presence. The woman's healing was never about fixing what was broken, because she was never broken. It was about remembering what she had forgotten: that she is timeless, that pain is not the enemy, that the soul already knows the way home. When we touch the core of a past life memory, we do not just access pain, we access truth, a larger truth that reorients everything. That tells us we are not small fragments adrift in a random world. We are strands in an intricate web of meaning, evolution, and divine rhythm. The soul curates our experiences, not for suffering, but for remembering. Every challenge is a summons, every ache is a threshold. The woman no longer feared her past. She had touched it, seen it, felt it, and emerged whole. Her healing was not dramatic, not loud, but it was real. She no longer woke with dread. Her breath was deeper. Her choices were quieter, wiser. The fear that once screamed through her days now echoed like a distant memory, respected, but no longer in control. Brian Weiss's work reminds us that we are never only healing this life, we are healing the continuity of consciousness, the bridge between what has been and what is yet to be, and in that space the soul finds peace, not by escaping pain, but by seeing it as part of the divine choreography of growth. The mind may never fully understand this, but the body does, the heart does, and the soul, it has always known. Even when we forget, it remembers. It waits, patiently, lovingly, until we are ready. And perhaps you, listening now, are beginning to feel your own readiness. Maybe something inside you has stirred, a subtle recognition, a warmth in the chest, a memory you cannot name but that feels like home. Honor it. Let it speak. Healing is not only for the woman in this story, it is for you. You too carry echoes. You too hold memories waiting to be seen. And when you choose to listen, not with the mind but with presence, you will begin to feel it. The unraveling, the softening, the truth emerging from beneath the noise. You do not need to search far. The portal is within you. Close your eyes, breathe, ask nothing. Simply feel. The soul will respond. It always does. It has waited for this moment. You are not alone in your journey. You are part of something vast, intelligent, and deeply loving, and the healing you seek is already seeking you. All it asks is your presence and your willingness to remember what was never truly forgotten. Because when the soul remembers, even for a moment, the entire universe aligns in silence, in reverence, in love. If these words touched your soul, subscribe to the channel and click on the video that just appeared on your screen. It was chosen especially for you. I know you'll love it.